Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins in 2016. A group of 47 Korean criminals from the Philippines are captured and brought back to South Korea by plane. A tragic event unfolds at the airport, when an elderly man, seeking revenge for his family, detonates a bomb, causing many deaths, including his own. Moving forward, 5 years later, South Korean police have arrested 20 fugitive criminals in the Philippines. To prevent a repeat of the 2016 incident, the government plans to transport them back to Busan from Manila, by cargo ship. This time, these criminals are the most dangerous and notorious ones. The government assigns elite highly trained police to escort them, led by Lee Sok-woo. Among the criminals is Park Jong-do, infamous for brutally assaulting and killing 30 women. Park shows no remorse and insults Sok-woo, who responds by humiliating him to assert authority. In Seoul, another team led by Oh Dae-woong coordinates with Sok-woo's team, for the sea journey. The criminals are confined in cells, each closely guarded by the police, ensuring tight security throughout the voyage. Shortly after setting off, Sok-woo lays down rules for the prisoners, but many rebel, and try to provoke him and his team. One prisoner, Lee Do-il, remains calm and silent, which intrigues everyone, due to his mysterious demeanor. Alongside the male criminals, Sok-woo's team also watches over female prisoners, including Choi Myung-ju, charged with murdering her husband and in-laws. Policewoman Lee Do-yeon keeps a close eye on Choi Myung-ju and the other women. Meanwhile, Dr. Kyung-ho is on board to handle medical emergencies, aided by nurse Yoon-ji, who seems uneasy being on the cargo ship. They chat while organizing their supplies, but Yoon-ji is unaware that Kyung-ho has brought unusual medical equipment and drugs. Apart from the medical team, cooks are busy preparing meals for the prisoners and crew. As meals are served, Kyung-ho secretly enters the ship's engine room with his medical gear. His task is to administer drugs to the most dangerous criminal on board, known as Alpha, ensuring he remains sedated throughout the journey to Busan. However, Sok-woo and his team are unaware of Alpha's presence on the cargo ship, as he was secretly placed there by Dae-woong. In his office, Oh Dae-woong studies classified documents about Alpha, revealing him to be a military prisoner, with a hidden agenda he keeps from Sok-woo's team. At midnight, Park covertly retrieves a wire hidden under his tongue, using it to unlock his handcuffs. He passes the wire to a fellow prisoner, to free him as well. Simultaneously, the cooks on duty, who are actually Park's accomplices disguised as cooks, reveal their true identities. Like Park, they are ruthless criminals willing to kill. They murder the real cooks, and take their places, infiltrating the ship to free Park. Executing their plan, Park and his accomplices attack 2 police officers on guard, hiding their bodies in the ship's refrigerator. They proceed to the control room, where they eliminate the crew, and disable all communication systems, cutting off any contact with Dae-woong's command center. Park then tricks a policeman into opening his cell. Once the officer enters, Park viciously assaults him, inflicting severe injuries. At the same time, Park's accomplices arrive, and launch a brutal assault on the police, while Park himself tortures and ultimately kills a policeman. Upon receiving the distress call, Sok-woo quickly gathers his team, including Lee Do-yeon, to confront the criminals. They storm into the ship's control room, to find Park's subordinates already there, having killed the crew. A fierce firefight ensues, but Sok-woo and Lee Do-yeon manage to overcome Park's men. Lee Do-yeon finds a surviving crew member, who informs them about a satellite phone in the engine room, that they can use for emergency communication. Park, having released the prisoners with the intention of hijacking the ship, faces opposition from Lee Do-il, who advises against the plan. Ignoring Do-il's warnings, he proceeds with his scheme to eliminate the police, and take control of the cargo ship. Hearing the gunfire, Kyung-ho and Yoon-ji seek refuge in the infirmary, to avoid getting caught up in the chaos. Elsewhere, Kun-bae, another criminal, is tasked with disposing of the police bodies in the ship's walk-in refrigerator. Unbeknownst to them, a leak in the drain pipe causes the victim's blood to flow towards the engine room, where it drips onto Alpha's face. Unexpectedly awakened by the blood, Alpha, despite being drugged, breaks free from his confinement. Simultaneously, Sok-woo and his team discover the aftermath of the slaughter in the criminal cell, with escaped prisoners and slain partners. They learn that Park plans to destroy the satellite phone in the engine room, prompting them to rush there. Park arrives at the engine room first, destroying the phone and killing more crew members. Just as he prepares to eliminate the last surviving crew member, Sok-woo and his team arrive, initiating a fierce confrontation. Amidst the chaos, Alpha emerges, freed and enraged, and swiftly kills one of the criminals. Despite having impaired vision, Due to a wire embedded in his face, Alpha uses his heightened senses of body heat and keen smell to overpower his opponents effortlessly. Witnessing his brutal capabilities, Park opts to flee, resorting to indiscriminate gunfire to cover his escape. However, Alpha refuses to let Park escape. Swiftly catching up to him, Alpha dispatches his subordinates effortlessly, before engaging in a fierce and one-sided battle with him. Despite Park's history as a ruthless criminal, he is no match for Alpha, who brutally ends his life in a gruesome manner. Meanwhile, others attempt to flee from the engine room, where the carnage is unfolding. Lee Do-il briefly confronts Alpha, to buy time for the others to escape. They manage to slip through an automatic steel door, just before Alpha can reach them. At the command center, Oh Dae-woong uses satellite imagery to understand the chaos on board the cargo ship, after losing contact with Sok-woo's team. He witnesses the massacre, and the escape of the criminals from their cells. Simultaneously, he receives a call from a mysterious figure, known as the CEO, who is aware of the events on the ship, and orders Oh Dae-woong to clean up the situation. The CEO bears a number on his chest similar to Alpha's, hinting at a shared background and a specific agenda involving Alpha. Back on the ship, the remaining crew members attempt to flee using a lifeboat, but Alpha intercepts and brutally kills them both. In the infirmary, Yoon-ji inadvertently witnesses Alpha's murders through the window, who detects her presence, breaks through the window, and swiftly kills her with one hand. Witnessing her death, Kyung-ho flees the infirmary, and eventually reunites with Sok-woo and the others. Under pressure from Sok-woo, Kyung-ho reveals that he had been bribed to inject Alpha with drugs, to keep him sedated during the journey. After this revelation, he's baffled as to why Alpha suddenly woke and began the massacre. Sok-woo directs Lee Do-yeon and the survivors to safety, while he searches for any remaining survivors. In another area, Kun-bae and Choi Myung-ju join other criminals, after overpowering their guards. Suddenly, Alpha appears and attacks indiscriminately. Choi Myung-ju and Kun-bae attempt to flee using an elevator, but Alpha easily climbs the shaft, and shoots at them. Sok-woo arrives just in time to save Choi Myung-ju, but Kun-bae tragically perishes when the elevator cable is cut. Sok-woo initially believes Alpha died with Kun-bae, but Alpha survives and pursues Sok-woo, who hides Choi Myung-ju in a walk-in refrigerator, before confronting Alpha. Despite Sok-woo managing to injure Alpha's arm, Alpha ultimately kills him. Witnessing Lee Sok-woo's demise, Choi Myung-ju pretends to be dead among the bodies in the refrigerator, escaping Alpha's notice. Meanwhile, Lee Do-il and the others find documents, revealing Alpha's background as a soldier dating back to 1943. These documents detail how Alpha and his comrades were captured and used as experimental subjects by Japanese soldiers in a project aimed at creating superhuman weapons. Kyung-ho discovers that Alpha possesses extraordinary strength and speed, heightened senses of sound and smell, and doesn't age normally, suggesting potential immortality. In a flashback, Japanese military officials celebrate the success of their superhuman experiment, only to be slaughtered by Alpha, who unexpectedly awakens. Back in the present, Oh Dae-woong heads to the cargo ship with elite forces from a secret organization, injected with a serum to enhance their abilities, to combat Alpha. Upon arrival, Oh Dae-woong encounters Choi Myung-ju, who he kills as she pleads for help, focused solely on capturing Alpha. Oh Dae-woong ruthlessly eliminates Lee Do-yeon and the others, leaving Lee Do-il as the sole survivor. It's revealed Lee Do-il and Alpha share a history as experimental subjects of Project Wolf Hunting, marked by identical engravings on their bodies. Lee Do-il deliberately got captured, intending to return to South Korea, to seek revenge on Oh Dae-woong and the secret organization responsible for their suffering. The experiment initially failed, with the subjects declared dead, but Lee Do-il unexpectedly revived, proving the experiment successful. Fearing Oh Dae-woong and his secret organization, Lee Do-il hid and started a new life. He married and had a son, but when the organization found him, they mercilessly killed his family. Seeking vengeance, Lee Do-il disguised himself among dangerous criminals, to return to South Korea. Back to the action, during Lee Do-il and Oh Dae-woong's confrontation, Alpha suddenly appears and attacks them. A fierce battle ensues between Oh Dae-woong's elite forces and Alpha, who easily dispatches the soldiers. However, Oh Dae-woong gains an advantage with the serum, enabling him to overpower Alpha. After defeating Alpha, he continues his duel with Lee Do-il, who fights relentlessly, despite being outmatched. Eventually, Lee Do-il corners Oh Dae-woong, and both plunge into the sea. It's revealed that the CEO was another experimental subject from 1943, tougher than Alpha, who founded a secret organization to continue superhuman experiments. Lee Do-il was also one of their subjects. At the CEO's headquarters, he encounters a boy, revealed to be Lee Do-il's son, still alive and held captive, due to inheriting his father's superhuman genes naturally, without needing serum. Lee Do-il survives his plunge into the sea, swimming ashore with renewed determination to exact revenge. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.